Intro chat with Merrill's live, digging deep where techs thrive. From the latest hacks to cool updates, join the ride, don't be late.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Entra Chat. And today I have Maqsood joining me today. And we're going to talk about their journey into Microsoft Entra. Maqsood is the IAM Principal Engineer at Elkjøp Nordic. And I hope I got the name right.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about a very interesting journey and how they migrated, especially from migrating from NetIQ to Microsoft Entra, and the challenges they faced along the way and how they overcame them and so on. So hopefully I'm very excited to understand and learn more and figure out what are the things that we can take in our own journey as we administer Entra. Maqsood, do you want to just give us a quick overview of yourself and how things started off?
Yes, thanks. My name is Maqsood. So I'm working as an IAM Principal Engineer in a company called Elkjøp Nordic. So you were almost closer to the name, how you pronounce it, since it's a Norwegian name. And then within the EIM space, the Elkjøp Nordic, they've already started access automation back then in 2006. So we were quite early in the game, actually.
Yeah. That's quite way back. Cool. When did your Microsoft 365 sort of journey start?
Yeah, this is back in 2006, and then the main driver or the motivation for driving the EIM project within the company was mostly making the access process more efficient in terms of the operations. So the product was actually under the store operations to begin with, because we are a retailer. We have a lot of frontline workers. They come, join, move, and leave. So we wouldn't have a very efficient and cost-effective solution if we didn't have the automation in terms of the accesses. So I think the first driver was the more cutting the cost, so that we can sell or have a good margin on the other stuff in the stores. And then from there, we actually started the automation more seriously. We started connecting a lot of pieces into the IAM back then in NetIQ. Things like that, connecting the master data services for the organization. And this is a very, very important piece of the part that we did it. That would actually not only give us a dimension, the size of the store, the name of the store, the location, and store IDs and all sort of stuff. Because if you put that piece in towards the with HR dimension, then you can really make a lot of cool automation. So I think we started from there, connecting internal services to the platform. And then around 2015, we were deciding to go public cloud, and then the first thing we did was the Microsoft Office 365 rollout.
So before we get to that, so you mentioned automation and so you sort of built your own sort of the data, let's say a data warehouse. Like, what was the platform like? How did you bring all those identities and the other information together?
Yeah, the platform was NetIQ. So it was a old, very old product. It used to be called Novell DXML back then, and then as a later stage, it became the product NetIQ Identity Manager. So it was working as a metadata store. It has a directory services underneath. It's called eDirectory, and then people who are old enough, they can maybe remember the eDirectory stuff, but that was something we used to store a lot of data, like a metadata, like connecting data or linking data to a lot of users from different sources to enrich our profile, so we could use the ABAC or RBAC kind of scenarios.
Right. Okay. And so you basically pushed in or pumped in all of that information into NetIQ
Yeah.
as part of your, the ongoing automation.
Yeah, that is true. And then I think the strength of that product was that since it was a real time machine, so it was something which would happen in HR, you will get event right away within a second.
Right.
And then you do some change on employee or any other entity in your metadata or in a directory, that would also emit an event right away. So it was extremely efficient product in terms of the timing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you had like frontline workers and others like that would join in.
Yeah, we have we have mostly like almost 80% frontline workers and 20% you can say that back office employees that consist of customer center. You can think of we have a big warehouse in Sweden. So we have
Right.
a quite big landscape there, and people like me works in our IT offices. So we are this is the how the
Right. Got it. Cool. Yeah. Roughly, like what size would you say the uh, directory was?
it was almost around 12,000 employees in terms of
Right.
the active employees, and we were doing operation Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Greenland, Iceland, and some of the areas in the Central Europe, Czech Republic. And so it was different regions, but 12,000 was the users. And also in addition to that, we started actually sourcing a lot of services as an organization, we also started collecting data on organization into the system.
Right.
Yeah, we also did with the back then we were also rolling out the applications to the desktop using the System Center Configuration Manager. And so we also
Yeah.
bringing those collections into also a directory, pulling them in, because and the way we did it was to pull them in and make them as an entitlement, so we can create an access around it, and also push it back again. Um, so it was like we built quite custom integrations to the products, which not a normal, a traditional identity product would never do.
Right. So you built all these custom
Yeah,
things.
we did a lot of custom connectors. I think one of the you can say positive is that we came from a very non-Windows environment. So we had mostly Linux on the server
Right.
sides, and that was we see it as positive because we
Yeah.
would then, if we would really integrate that product with the Microsoft products, you would never find a connector which is shipped by product. So we had to actually do ourselves. Yeah, so it was a quite a nice journey. So
Right.
yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Right. So let's get into the next phase, right? So you started moving to the cloud, and how did that happen? And I guess the motivation was more to use the modern M365 services.
Yeah, the
That's what.
motivation was like that we would rather focus on scaling our business, not on managing IT for us. So that was the main driver for us, and then we saw an opportunity, obviously, in the public cloud, where we could move ourselves quickly. And the reason, as I also told you, that we didn't have a lot of Windows
Right.
stuff. So for us, it was really a eye opener, or just an opportunity we were just waiting for.
Right.
So yeah, and then the way we did was actually using the NetIQ Identity Manager. We wrote our own connector actually
Right.
towards Azure AD free back then.
Right.
And then which was Office 365 was actually backed by the Azure AD. And then what we did, we
Yes.
didn't do the PowerShell approach. We did actually wrote our own connector to the Azure AD Graph API, and then we started pushing users groups from
Right.
eDirectory to the Azure AD Free, and it would include all users, not only the store frontline users, but all users. But
Right.
this Office 365 licensing, which also we use the Graph API, would
Yeah.
activate only the back office users. So we had a quite centralized access management in the NetIQ, but was like a kind of synchronization happening on the other side.
Right. So this was like a NetIQ connector that you created, and you were sort of syncing it, sort of like a replica of the Entra connecting
Exactly. And
service.
this is
Okay.
around 2015-ish time. And then
Right.
we did also took the advantage of the directory extension back then. We didn't know it, we're gonna use it, but we said, okay,
Right.
we have a lot of data in eDirectory. Why would
Yeah.
not just replicate those data to directory extensions? Then we have a really same employee profile and the organization and everything else. So we started actually syncing that out as well. Um,
Right. Nice. That's very neat. But like, did you run into any challenges, like scaling and so on when you had the custom script?
Not actually. We never wrote the script. So the way it works is NetIQ connector is like it's a Java based product. So so they can give you the SDK which you can write your connector from ground up, or you can use their built-in connector and then tweak them up. So we did mostly tweaking the connectors, and we knew that we're gonna use always the REST APIs HTTP. We're
API.
not gonna use any
Right.
script, any PowerShell, anything that requires a runtime or machine. That is like not allowed in our company, because then you need
Right.
to manage the machine, you need to take care of
Yeah.
the machine, you need to upgrade the machine, you need to do a lot of things. So that was our core principles. Never a script. A script is not
Right.
allowed here.
Right.
Yeah. So I think this is the way we did it through the Connect REST. Mostly the REST interface was we
Right.
used NetIQ vendor at the time. They also have the connector by that time to the Office 365, but they were doing the same traditional stuff through the PowerShell interface, where you
Right.
need to install the WinRM and all the PowerShell core module in order to stack up the PowerShell module. So so that was our approach to Microsoft Azure AD free back then. Yeah,
Right. Nice. And you like, did you do even so? You would be doing like Delta updates, right?
yeah, that was
Like
it. Yeah.
it runs daily, and the difference of the user objects and groups that were changed since the last run,
Yeah, this
and
is
then it will get updated.
yeah, I would just add info here because as I said, this NetIQ directory has the very strength into its event-based, being its event-based product. So you never had a delta kind of thing. So if would something happen in HR that would emit a change into e-directory would push an event to the our connector that something has happened on this employee. Not only something has happened, but it also will tell you the event that what happened from and what happened to values. So you could actually, so we were actually pushing the data like live to the Azure AD free.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
So it
so
was not like a daily sync.
no,
It
no,
was
no,
like
no.
in
And
between.
yeah, this is also our core principle in our identity space. We don't like the scheduling, we don't like the batches, we don't like things like that. We like real time. Things should happen right,
Right,
really. And this is something I'm gonna share how we have done with Microsoft products. So
right.
the
Cool.
same ideas. Yeah.
So how do you handle scenarios where like one of the system is offline? Like that's one of the advantages with the batch approach, that it's a bit more resilient versus the real time.
Yeah, it's there's in a product NetIQ. So let's say your connector is off. Maybe some issues with it could be a network, it could be in a firewall, it could be any even Microsoft product has failed. So what it does is actually it goes into the cache mode. That means it started caching the events.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not
Queuing
sure.
it up.
Yeah, queuing it up.
Yeah.
So it is exactly it builds its own cache for that connector, and it will tell you that it will start sequencing caching the events something had happened in that order. So when the target server is up, you just start the connector, start then running those events, and obviously then the Microsoft Azure AD3 has to really take this so much traffic,
Yeah.
and also will throttle obviously if you really connector was down 3 days, and there's a lot of moves happens, join happens, and
Right.
so you will accumulate a lot of caches actually. Then the connector also had the automatic built-in retry mechanism based on the throttling services as well.
Right. Nice. Nice.
Yeah, so I think it was that same mechanism we use not only for the Microsoft services but other services that we built actually.
Right. Cool. Very interesting. Nice. Okay. So how did you then progress on in the journey from there?
Yeah, this is like we had since I told you that Azure AD Free was for all users, and then we started enabling the licenses for Office 365 for back office users, and then on the later stage we were also thinking to actually build an in-house development environment, because we would build services ourselves, not to buy. Yeah, and then we were looking for a platform where we could actually build the services. And since we have this already good experience with Microsoft Office 365, so we also decided to go for Microsoft Azure as the building the services for. And obviously, when we decided that the EAM stuff that we already did with Azure AD Free, where we had a groups, where we had everything around it, that made us also access management with Azure back in 2016-17 really really easy. We were
Yes.
doing the
Right. You already
RBAC.
had
Yeah, we
everything in
had
the
the
cloud.
everything there.
Yes.
So we were quite lucky in sense of that, and I think that was our first stuff. We did it, and then we started also using the access management part from the Azure AD. A lot of access management, like the typical SSO, SAML, OIDC
Yeah.
based single sign-on, because whenever we would onboard an application into our services, we rather challenge the vendor that do you support the SAML, do you support the Entra ID, do you support this and that, and if they would say no, then we would really work together with them closely, help them to really onboard their applications into Entra. So I think
Nice.
that also we learned a lot of stuff from that side as well. So the journey, like from Office 365, and then came the Azure landscape to ourselves that would enable also more users, and then also we decided go actually everything live, every users into the Microsoft Azure ID for every users. And then also in our company we had a lot of legacy systems from back then, so they were also happening a lot of modernization and innovation on that side as well, which actually also drove this speed quite high. So we were building, for example, a new point of sale system that would, from the ground up, we decided to use the Entra ID as the login authentication mechanism. We don't have anything on premise. We're not an on premise guys. We don't have any LDAP. We don't have anything like that. You're gonna just rely on the Entra services. Yeah, and also we took also the case of failure. For example, let's say Microsoft Data Platform is down, so we took that also into business a case that we could maybe afford 6 or 7 hours of downtime, and then because point of sale is a really crucial system for you in a store. So
Yes.
we made
Yeah.
also that also we built this cache token caching into the product as well. So you
Oh,
could still
nice.
log in even services are down. You can still log in with your cache token and you can still use it. So
Right.
yeah, and that is also sourcing the data from the Azure AD through the app roles concept. Back then, 2017, 18, nobody knew about that concept. We were doing the app roles and claims into the tokens. So for
Right.
us, it
Yeah.
was like an eye opener.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's been in the product for the longest time, but yeah, not very heavily used. Even now, I don't see that many apps or vendors and even organizations make use of features like app roles in the app registration, enterprise apps, and so on. But it's a full blown system that you do
Yeah,
have. Yeah.
it's really powerful and full blown
Yeah.
system, and also I think I will also share some more data on that. Yeah.
Cool. So one thing I wanted to ask is when you were doing the sync from NetIQ before, right? How did you do the credentials? Like, did you sync that as well? How did the users authenticate when they
Yeah.
go to like M365, for
Yeah,
example?
so what we did is that we did in the NetIQ directory there is password synchronization mechanism. So there's a password is quite encrypted, and then what we did is that we wrote our own connector from the NetIQ which tap into the password and will use the PowerShell module to deploy the password to the Microsoft, because that was we didn't
Yeah.
choose the Azure AD free way of doing the password push, but we wrote our own custom module that will do the um, uh, um, uh, uh, PowerShell just to do the password push.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think you're
we
one of the few customers I know like who, so you didn't basically use the Entra Connect sync at all, right?
no we
In your
yeah
own
no we
like
never
thing.
yes
So
yeah.
things like hybrid join and all, none of those things apply to you because you're basically all cloud. The users were all
Exactly. So
cloud
we,
users.
yeah, for any customers, partners, vendors, when we show them our Entra landscape, we don't even told them that we are doing replication. We were telling this is our public cloud directory. We don't have anything on premise.
Yeah. And that's how it is in Entra itself, right? That it wouldn't have the hybrid, it wouldn't have SAM account, all the things that we synchronize.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh, those would not be included.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was a by decision that no, we're not gonna do any server, any component, any agent. We have to install and manage and then run them just to do our business. That sounds very boring. So
Right. Okay.
yeah,
So the users would just see the native Entra Auth sign-in page, and
exactly.
then they would sign in
Yeah,
that way and get
yeah.
auth.
And the thing the way we did, I'm not sure. Not it's a guide for other customers, but we
Yeah.
also run only the one environment, the prod environment. We don't have any dev, test,
That's
prod, or
yeah,
sort of
that's
things.
scary.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not something I would
No,
recommend.
no. But this is how we are doing. So yeah.
Right. You only test in production.
Exactly, exactly. We do really MVPs into the production, and we really scope it down. We can scope it down to a feature, to a store, to an employee,
Yeah.
or to a brand, or to a country. So we have a lot of safety mechanisms into the testing.
So the next time I'm picturing, there's this meme that says, right, I only test in production.
Yeah, yeah.
We should take a picture of you and put
Exactly. You should do this. And this is actually a funny part because we don't do any kind of we have been to that journey where you spin a test dev and these environments and you just pay for them, you never use it. And then just an extra overhead.
Awesome. All right. So you are now syncing your identities and you're using Azure and the app roles. So how did that journey sort of go through? Like, are you still running NetIQ?
Yeah, we have completely removed that stuff from our landscape. Yeah, there was a journey where also we had innovation around NetIQ product. It was something vendors started containerization their products. So
Right.
we were the one of the first customer in the world, I can say, that did the whole NetIQ containerization into the production environment, because that was running that into AKS, Microsoft Azure Kubernetes, the whole
Okay.
legacy product into a modern
Right.
infrastructure
Running in
services.
right.
So
Nice.
that also we did that. So
Yeah.
so you can think of how much innovation and motivation we had into our inside that really want to do
Yeah.
that. Uh,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that would have taken a lot of effort and
Yeah,
time, right?
it took also a lot of effort from us, but also we challenged the vendor because they didn't have any concept like this. They were just testing out, doing the Docker images for their
Docker.
products,
Right.
but we
Yeah.
put them into AKS, run them really in a
Right.
production landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made you sort of like decommission it completely?
Yeah, I think when we saw already challenges around 16, 17 when we were building in-house development house. So the first response that we got from our developers, they didn't like the NetIQ at all. They didn't understand what the
Yeah.
heck is that. I'm a modern developer. I'm a young. I just came from university. Or you're telling me the legacy code from 1990 or 99? So I think that was the first challenge. We saw that now this product is not gonna scale. And then second challenge we saw is that in terms of the modern protocols, the product was lacking a lot behind. It was mostly maybe good on the legacy one, but not on the modern protocols at all. So these two things were in our head, biting us. And second is running the whole AKS environment also was very costly for us.
Yes.
And because it started was a most exciting, interesting story, but when we run that business, I mean, it was started very also expensive for us to run that environment. So we had to go out, we had to leave out that ship, and we saw that this is a sinking ship. We need to leave this place quick.
Yes, right. It's
Yeah,
legacy,
yeah.
and you are not building for the future, right? Like you're thinking
Exactly. Yeah, it
five,
was it
6 months
was
ahead.
yeah, it was fit for purpose, but not something you can see a strategic product in the future. So
Right. So how did you handle apps that required that connection to LDAP? Whatever, however, those legacy apps that were built,
it,
did you have challenges?
it was a different scenario. So most the legacy apps would do the password synchronization, so they would not rather connect to LDAP, but that you need to sync the password from the NetIQ to those apps, legacy apps. Um,
Right.
yeah,
So they were only using it for just
exactly,
authenticating
exactly for
the
that.
site.
And some app would use the LDAP as authentication, which we also now lift and shift to the Azure AD domain services. Them, so those apps also are moved.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, different scenarios, and then everything that we purchase, new apps or we build our apps, that was by default required that you should do
Right.
Entra ID auth. You're not allowed to do any auth.
Right. So when did you come up with that rule of, that you're only supposed to have, that
Uh,
should be modern authentication, right? Either SAML or
Yeah,
ID.
when we started around Microsoft Cloud Journey, we decided that now we're gonna just do that like that. So we even tried. Not sure if you know, before Azure AD free, there was Azure AD, but it has a one service called Access Control Service (ACS).
ACS.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
also tried that back then in
Right.
to solve the access management. We're really glad that we didn't put it in production
Yeah.
because it, yeah,
Yeah. So you did use Entra ID domain services
yeah. We when
as a bridge, right?
Yeah, well, when we really went serious for all users, so we also purchased the Entra ID domain services because we knew that we're gonna hit a legacy somewhere else, where some app we have bought, a business have bought, which doesn't work with Entra, and then we need to support it. So we knew all that. So for us, it was just to buy the service and enabling it because we don't run it. So for us, it was
Yes. Just
just an advantage. Yeah.
yeah. And your apps, like, do you have apps still using Entra ID domain services
Yeah,
today?
we have a few apps that still use it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And did you have to make changes to those apps when you switched from NetIQ to
Yeah,
these?
we did it. We work with the vendors, and then we didn't share that it's Android domain services. We just told them this is a ED because then it communication becomes much easier
Yes.
to carry on. Telling them new terms and terminologies, they would
Yeah.
always said, "Oh, it's
I
not
mean,
supported."
in all
Yeah.
intent, it is an AD. It's just running in
Exactly.
cloud and
Yeah,
Microsoft
yeah.
managed.
So I think some apps really was just a swap. Didn't we have to
Just lift and
struggle?
shift.
Yeah,
Okay.
we you didn't have to struggle,
So
but
it,
some
right.
of apps were a little bit tricky because they were built custom, so they need to adopt the little bit of it. One of the challenge we saw that when you look for an employee ID attribute to the AD domain service is quite slow search on that attribute. It's not indexed. And if you read the documentation, this attribute is not indexed. And that app was using this attribute just to identify you as an employee.
Right.
So that login was quite slow process for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you had to update the app to use one of the other.
Yeah, we had, yeah, but now they've supported the directory extension, so we're gonna probably use another attributes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That'll be easier. Cool. Okay. I mean, I think this is the first time we've spoken about Entra domain services on the podcast. But it's one that's like a lifesaver to people like who want to do a lift and shift of
Yeah.
a lot of the legacy
Yeah.
on-prem things.
I think you should not tell your applications vendors that you have a AD or with a AD domain services. Try to push them
Yeah.
to Entra ID. When you lose the challenge, then you tell them, okay, we have AD domain
Yes,
services.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's one reason even at Microsoft, it's not like front and center.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly. This is
and
like
that's
a
the
really,
whole,
really, yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's the whole intent behind Entra ID domain services as well. This is for
Yeah.
people who cannot modernize their apps, their legacy apps. Maybe you don't have the developers or even the company anymore, and you can sort of still lift and shift.
Yeah,
them
yeah,
and try
yeah,
to-
yeah. The reason is that if you start telling people that we also do AD, they started coming with a lot of legacy apps buying that, and then we are sitting with over a headache moving them. So
Yeah. So when you said when you started moving to M365, that's like back in 2015.
yeah,
You sort
2015.
of came up with the policy of all apps should be modern authentication.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because we didn't have any access management product on premise, so we also were lucky to just use the Azure AD as the access management product. So we would require either you can do the OIDC or you can do the SAML. If not, we can also store the passwords. We can actually inject on the go.
I mean, you were very like this is like almost 10 years.
Yeah,
back,
it's
right?
we
Like
quite early.
very early when you came up with that, which is really smart because like one of the things I like my team we recommend to people is it's 2025, stop onboarding applications that require Kerberos and the legacy protocols. Every company should have a policy. Like we have the zero trust workshop where we're talking about zero trust, and the first thing in that is, do you have a policy in your company that says don't acquire apps that are not using modern authentication, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't bring in apps. But vendors are still selling those sorts of apps, and companies like who don't know much better, they buy them. Or most of the time, what happens with IT is somebody else makes the decision and they get the product and they need to deploy it.
Exactly.
And
Very
that's what
traditional.
Microsoft
Yeah. Very traditional. Yeah.
doesn't have it. So it's something that the cybersecurity teams and everyone and stakeholders and procurement mainly
Yeah.
should have it in their checklist of, does this app support?
Yeah, we made a one single Confluence page and we added to the procurement process actually. So if you're gonna buy any IT services, use the page, and then the page we made it very easy, simple. Like it was like a flow chart everybody can understand easily. So
Nice. Yeah. And yeah, so that's, I think, a lot of orgs getting procurement on board because they have a checklist of lots
yeah,
of other
yeah,
things, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
this would be a thing you should put in. And there are lots of orgs that even today don't really
Yeah,
have
but
that as a
yeah,
policy.
we also ran into challenge like when the vendor was said, yeah, I can work with the SAML, but sorry, I don't have any provisioning services for skim base, right? So we ran into
Right.
that challenges as well. But since we had a lot of competency on building connectors from the NetIQ, so we didn't saw
Right.
that as a big challenge. We would just go and
Right.
just deploy a connector and then voila, and we're there.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. All right. There were some areas that you wanted to get into, right? Like the app, how like your app roles and how you use it is really mature.
Yeah, yeah.
And do you want to tell about why you went that way, right? Because a lot of the apps that I see that are built, etc., even custom line of business applications in organizations, they build apps and then within the app they build this whole sort of UI and API to assign an admin inside the application. Let's say they're building uh, some example of a line of business application. and they would build their own admin role and write code, and it's very complex. They build a whole membership role management system. When Entra has something already built in, it has a whole API
Exactly.
to do all of that, and IT admins can manage the roles and assign people just using the Entra portal, and not very many people across that. Do you want to share?
Yeah, I can share. I
Okay.
think we had a lot of first of all we came from like a EIM space, so we understood the value of the app role because you are taking the control authorization, not only authentication, but you're taking control of the
All right.
authorizations. So we would rather we saw those app roles as the entitlements that
Yeah.
your application provides or publishes, and then we would use those application specific app roles, and we will map them to our own business roles. That was our strategy. Much easier, and because you don't need to move your own business knowledge to the apps, because that's a bad
Yeah.
strategy. You
Yeah,
need
and
to.
each app would need to implement it, right?
Exactly, and they need to understand the
Yeah.
whole organization scenario. So we would rather challenge, okay, developer, you're building app, keep focus on your app, what roles and permissions it will actually expose. We use also the Microsoft Graph model as a model API just to tell the developers, look how Microsoft has
Yeah.
done it. Try to just make your minds around it, this concept.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's a really good example, right? Like
yeah,
in, for example, SharePoint has a contributor role, and, admin role for a site,
exactly.
contributor role, and there's a read only role. So all of those are defined, and then you can sort of just map those roles and manage them all in the Entra portal without each application build the line of business custom apps that you need
Yeah.
in your organization. Yeah, because they end up building a whole UI fight, right? Like
Yeah.
user
Exactly.
interface to manage all
Yeah,
of this. Like
yeah,
you can just
yeah,
use Entra for that instead of
yeah.
writing all of your own code. So
Yeah, I think I think we were also one of quite early in the advisory process when we started this in-house building app. So we would go and tell developers that please follow this and that. And also, I can agree that it's not for easy people to really understand this concept. So
yes,
to make this easy, what we did is that okay, we said, all right, people don't understand it, we would not always the pushing people, so let's do something. So what we did is we built internal engineering platform
okay,
where actually the app developers would go and then the create either an SPA app to front end or
right,
other backend app, clicking or through the CLI. And
right,
what we do in the backstage, we would create the app roles in the backend, so they don't really have to learn then again. They will
yeah,
really just make their for them to make understand. They would just go and then code it, and we
right,
told them that when a person logs into your app, you will see an app role claim. You will then get the role that person has, and then you can
nice.
either decide or allow or disallow the actions that one would perform. So I think that would the engineering platform really boost up the adoption of the this app role concept.
Right. Yeah, I think like from what you're describing, your identity team is really mature in sort of knowing a lot about the app roles and being able to guide your developers on how to do that. And sort of you're building a self-service as well, right? For
Yeah,
the
yeah.
for them
This
to
is a
hide
yeah.
that complexity.
Yeah, to hide. Yeah, because also this is you said self-service. This is also one of our kind of a motivation is that whatever we do, it should be self-service. It shouldn't be dependent on traditional IT department that
Right.
normally has a
Yeah.
company has. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's amazing. Like when I used to be an admin, that's one of the things that was my sort of mantra is like, I don't want to be in IT just clicking on Entra to fill forms for
yeah,
some request.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
If I was to create an app for a service principal,
Yeah,
like I provide as an Entra admin, I
mm,
provide zero value to my business by just clicking things, looking at a form that someone
exactly.
has submitted,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
if I can automate that and give them some way to do that through an automated form, that's what I would do. Because like you're basically taking your role out, right? Like when you automate as much as that. But but that's the reason we are there, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't. We should build things that will help an organization,
Yeah. Yeah.
and especially things that are customized to your org, right? Like Entra gives the capability, like the foundations, but then each org has different
I think
requirements.
this is a very key, very, very valuable word you said, because we also see Entra provides the foundation. Because don't use the experience from they have built, use the foundation, and then build your own experience on top of it. That
Exactly.
that combination, I think, is really key to success. I know many people have different opinions about the Azure portal or sort of things or APIs. We would never don't see those as abstraction, because we would see, okay, Entra really provides a nice foundation for everything: authorization, access management, all the RBAC stuff. Just build your experience on top of it. That's it. All you need is that.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
like very refreshing to hear, because
Mm,
because Microsoft 365 is for like millions of tiny
exactly. Yeah.
users,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you have the mom and pop shops where like it's just husband and wife who are like the admins, and they're running their coffee business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And then
To
to the enterprise big. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like we spoke about. I spoke with George from McDonald's. They
Mm,
have 2 million plus users,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's the same Entra that everyone uses. So it's hard to like have all the capability built in, and that's where the platform and the APIs are there to be,
Yeah.
to extend it to
Yeah.
really meet your need on top of that.
Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
also we took all these like the way Microsoft does. We took also that into our development process. So we would build, if we would build a UX app, we would build also an API app for it. We would also build
Right.
the role model. We build the scopes that API would present. So
Nice.
we would just learn a lot of things from Microsoft just to use their
Yeah.
framework. Yeah.
Exactly. Microsoft has done it, and that's the beauty of what I like about Entra and the graph is we preach, practice what we preach, because we use the same graph API, the roles and the scopes, and it's the same thing Microsoft builds for M365. So every
Exactly.
app you're
Yeah.
using,
Hmm.
they are doing the same thing, and you can just learn. You just by looking at how it's done, you can learn a lot from
Yeah,
all
it's
those
a it's a
platforms.
it's a it's a really a lot of, for me personally. I think I have learned many things just by understanding how the platform works. That value I have brought into the company, actually, the how we should do the apps. So
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
Excellent. That's I'm learning so much, and I'm like so excited to talk to someone who's been through that journey and done this same thing. Because where I used to work before, I wanted to get to that stage. I didn't get to
Okay.
complete it.
Yeah.
We sort of automated a lot of the requests when someone comes with, I want to create a service principal. We automated it quite a lot. They would fill the form, and
Mm-mm.
then we would
Yeah. Yeah.
go through an automated workflow and
Exactly.
create the service principal. So we didn't expose the Entra UI to them because they can't create apps
No.
on their
No.
own, but they can fill a form. And
Mm.
then if it meets certain criteria, we automated creating the service principal and giving them own access so they can manage things.
Yeah.
So that, like there is no value in me just going and creating an app registration and
Yeah. There is exactly.
reply
Yeah.
URLs and
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I was just extra overhead. Yeah.
yes, true. And it lets your devs be free, and you're not a blocker, right? Because the moment you put some IT process like that, a
Yeah.
manual process, suddenly you have lots of devs blocked because they submit a request and it takes
Exactly.
days.
It's
Even if it takes like
mm,
1 hour, 2 hours, their flow gets broken, right? And usually it's more, like
yeah,
it
yeah,
takes
yeah.
more than that.
Through this engineering platform that we built, we also like made it so simple for developers to just really onboard their applications. And what we have built is that we do also the admin consent in the backstage, so they don't even learn. They don't need to learn the admin consent either.
Right. Yeah.
So we would do on the behalf of them on the backstage. Yeah,
Nice,
yeah,
nice. Yeah, because not everything is the same level of security, and you can manage what you want. Sometimes people want like a service principal just for Azure, right? And they don't even need any admin consent.
exactly.
right? So
Yeah.
it's a lot more simpler. You give them that credential and they can
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
like the front end and the back end apps, the API apps that we build is like more user-faced apps, so we need to have some
Right.
kind of permissions to
Interesting.
consent. Yeah, yeah, and our tenant is really locked out. It's like you cannot consent anything, you cannot do
Right.
anything, so it's really locked out.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Very interesting. Um, we're getting to the top of the hour. Was there anything else we wanted to?
Yeah, it's I think I think this journey when we actually decommissioned the Microsoft the NetIQ,
Yes.
and I think that's
That's,
the
yeah, I
important.
wanted to cover that, right? Like, how
Yeah,
did you actually go about
yeah.
breaking
Yeah,
the
so yeah,
IQ?
I think as you know that we were synchronizing the data. So in terms of this access management, we were already doing that. We had the everything groups and roles in place, and that all the automation like attaching the groups to the roles we were actually built through the NetIQ process. And so when we decided to leave the space, and then obviously we had a very nice relationship with Microsoft. So we had a lot of talks with the admin in the evenings. I remember many, just to share our ideas, what we've been doing that, and then also see what they have to come up with. So I think that the Microsoft Identity Governance, we saw it exactly was the same that we were doing in the in the on-premise. It has the same same entire management system, same lifecycle workflows. So we saw the capability was very similar. We didn't know the quality, we didn't know the scale,
Yeah.
but we said, okay, the matches actually the idea matches a lot here. So what we
Right.
did is that we asked them to, can we try that product? Just to evaluate it, and they were said completely fine. So what we did is we wrote another connector to NetIQ. So what it would
Right.
do is actually synchronize all the application folders from the NetIQ to the identity governance as a catalog. S
Okay.
So it will just move things on the go, and also
Right.
all the groups in eDirectory, it will create an access package for it. It will attach
Right.
the resource to the access package. Group, we already have an Entra ID, so we linked it as also a resource to the access package.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we wrote this, and then we took everything we had in an Ataki, we just copied it to the as a catalog. So all
Right.
of a sudden we have a full catalogs. All the
Yeah.
people that have access to the catalogs in Ataki would have the same permissions into the identity governance.
Beautiful.
And then what we did is that we said, okay, now we should onboard some of the apps not being managed from the NetIQ, just only by Microsoft. So we started contacting the access owners that can you go just type a mycatalog.elkjøp.com, and then once they would click it, it will redirect an Azure portal with their catalogs. They are allowed to see it. And then from
Right.
there we started teaching them, please use this access package, how you can use enable self-service. And they really the adoption was like it was just like a jump. And we said, no, this is the product we want. We don't want this NetIQ, all that stuff.
Yes.
And then this was like a user feedback. User were telling us, you guys, this I love this product because I want to go that route. I don't want this all that you told me before to do this and that, 100 clicks in
Nice.
here and then. So I think this feedback, user feedback, very nice for us. The portal my access, the way it works,
Yeah.
and then for us, what was just to write a connector that would just almost copied everything. I mean, that was not a
Yeah.
big job for us. What we did also, we took the existing assignments in NetIQ, we migrate them as access package assignments. Not only the migrate them, we also took the business justification that was given in the old product. We migrate that
And
text
put them.
over.
Oh,
So we
nice.
use an access to use sort of thing. So we did. I think that when we decided this, and then we said, okay, now not gonna NetIQ is gonna live. So we really moved like that. And then the challenge was the all the connectors that we built in NetIQ, almost more than 200 plus connectors that we are building. With that, we're doing provisioning to multi SaaS applications, custom provisioning
Right.
connectors,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of organization flows back and forth. Those were quite many of them, and Microsoft had the schema outbound mostly. scheme inbound for the HR stuff. So we actually saw that to move those integrations, we were really lucky that Microsoft has extension into their products towards the Logic App as integration platform. So we started moving those connectors to the Logic apps as well,
Right.
or slowly. And then the speed, the way we moved it is really amazing because now we have moved everything to Logic
Right.
app and it is just fast. It is just
Oh,
fulfills our dream. Nobody manages it, nobody runs it,
correct.
nobody
It's all
upgrades
cloud.
it, nobody
Yeah.
patches it. The
Nice.
dream
So
that
you
we
use
saw.
logic apps, and is it with lifecycle workflow, or
Yeah,
you just
we
have the logic app running to push out the changes and
We
stuff?
we use everywhere. So it is connected to the lifecycle workflows. It is connected to the entitlement management extensions. We do a lot of automation
Right.
backstage. It is connected
Nice.
to the even we connect this our entitlement management connect to the PIM module of the Entra, so that you activate your access from my access portal. You don't have to learn other PIM portals where you go and activate one more time. We will
Okay.
carry on all the given business justification that you're given into the my access. We will tap this data into the PIM module, and PIM module will then be available for SecOps teams to really see what to do with
Oh,
that.
nice.
So
Wow.
so we
I'm
have
very intrigued. Yeah, I
yeah.
think I need to do another session with you where I don't know if you can show
Yeah,
things
yeah,
and
yeah. That was I really showed the other people how we have done it because it looks very easy, but it is a lot of work put in back.
it is a lot of work, but
Yeah,
then you have this working model, right? Like where you're using logic apps and like what Microsoft wants our customers to do in the cloud.
yeah,
So
yeah,
um,
yeah.
you're benefiting from all that.
Yeah,
So
and just to add just more, we had like almost 40 SAP landscape, like SAP R3 systems on premise. We also have connected them with the Logic apps. This is nobody has done it before. So we have connected
nice,
the access packages to the SAP roles. We
right?
onboard them through the Logic apps. We push them through the Logic apps. So
Okay.
yeah,
Wow, I think I want to do another session with you where like I like your idea of the engineering platform, like the docs that internal docs that you
yeah,
have
yeah,
for your developers. Like a lot of like orgs struggle with, creating something like that. That's something like even I did when I used to work
okay,
at, as an Entra admin. We had this whole guide because we had to, the devs come, they have no idea about Auth or SAML or,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
service principal.
It's another journey. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Microsoft Docs, they're good. They're good if you're like technical, but then they point you out to lots of different places.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you
exactly.
go in a circle when you start reading the docs.
Exactly.
So giving a simple guide for our devs is very important because as IAM, we are the people who teach them this, right? Because they only know they are only interested in building their app and not really concerned about
Yeah,
identity
yeah.
and
I can
that.
just yeah. This is maybe even another talk, but I like simple snares concepts like a scopes.
Right.
For a developer to understand, it was like a rocket science. I don't know what to
Yes.
scope put my scope in
What a
my app,
scope is.
and then we
Yes.
tell them, okay, if you don't know the scope, just type the data dot read write all. Somebody
Right.
is going to manage data in your app, right? So we will ask them what kind of data is it? Article? Is it a product? Is it a what? And then you
Yeah.
just use the entity name, product, and then what is gonna do? Are they gonna read or write? Yes, just type read write, and then it's gonna do everything. Yes, not all. Just make it very simple. Don't think too much. So yeah.
Yeah. Following the same as a graph model.
Yes,
Cool.
exactly. That would really easy made our life easy and developers' life easy. They don't need to understand a lot
Right.
there.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, this has been a very fascinating talk, and you are like really mature in terms of all of the capabilities you're using. So you are like cloud native now,
Yeah,
right?
we are cloud
Like
native.
that
Yeah,
means
yeah, yeah,
in the cloud,
yeah.
and
And also only prod environment. We don't have anything, so we just everything built into the prod.
I'm not sure I'll advertise that.
Yeah.
I'm not brave enough to,
No,
do
but I
that.
mean, we are our tenant. Whenever we go in the private previews, Microsoft asks what's your tenant ID. So always give them prod tenant ID. We don't
Product.
tell them that it's a prod.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool, cool. Yeah. So I really want to see, like the logic apps and how you do all of those
yeah,
things and,
yeah.
how you set up the flows, because there's a lot of extensibility you can do with logic apps, and it's perfect, right? It runs in the cloud. It costs very little
It's
compared to
extremely cheap. If you are wise to develop logic apps, it's very cheap.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's a very interesting sort of the flow, and like I would like to do a do a screen share and actually show
Yeah. We also
you that.
build, like, since we have as a high speed of building the logic apps, so we also had to document them. So we had also logic app, the documents, the logic apps into Confluence.
Right.
So
Nice.
yeah.
Do you have the logic apps in like source control?
The
Both of them in that way?
and the
I think
logic.
there's some new capability now.
Yeah, there's a new capability, but our motivation for team was to reason we did Logic App was low code, no code, so we would never go into
Yeah.
this the complete DevOps pipeline sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So clicking to portal, it's much faster for us, and also making it make a DevOps process. It's just killing its own platform's
Yeah.
capabilities.
That's awesome.
And also we run the Microsoft that previous extensions. They run through the consumption model, which does not
Right.
support all the
Correct. Yes.
processes either. So what we do for us, because we have a company wide GitHub account, so because we need to show business who is doing what in terms of the value. So what we do is that we're gonna commit that everything you add to the Logic app that generates an event to the Azure, and from there we tap into the event and we commit in the GitHub repo just to
Exactly.
see
That's what I
the
was trying, right? So you can have an audit trail of how
yeah,
the logic
yeah,
apps
yeah. So
updated.
yeah, that is for us audit trail, as you said, for the
Yeah.
business to see how much value
Yeah.
IAM is putting into the platform, but
Right.
also for us, we integrate with the team's notifications, so we get the channels who is changing what. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And for worst case, you have like a backup, right, of the logic app
Not
if somebody
actually.
leaves.
Not actually. Now, a resource group is attached with a log, so only I can up upon the a log, so nobody is able to delete anything. So yeah, yeah,
Cool. Awesome.
yeah.
Was there any closing thoughts
Yeah, I think
that you have?
I think
Yeah.
it's a very nice chat, and we have shared a lot of our experience, but we also tell other customers it's not like a walk in the park. You need to have a mentality, you need to have patience, you need to have interest to adopt the modern cloud environment, and you need to
Yeah.
have obviously a time and resources, because uh, buying the third party EIM products vendors, it's easy, but it doesn't help when you don't have understanding of your own access management. So a lot of what they say is like 80% is your business thing, 20% is
Yes.
technology. So I think that
Yeah.
still valid. So
That is true. Yes.
yeah.
Right. And yeah, a product just buying something off the shelf is not
No,
going to
and
solve
also
it.
and also we tell other, don't compare what a product comparison says on the internet, because Microsoft, you're gonna compare with Microsoft EAM with another competitive EAM, you maybe go in a blind spot. So let's say don't rely on schema outbound inbound capabilities, don't see the provisioning.
Yeah.
You can build your own provision experience through Logic App. You can build anything that is
Yeah.
possible. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And even at Microsoft, that's one philosophy we have. Like, we'll
Mm,
not do feature comparisons
exactly.
like with
Yeah.
other vendors.
Yeah.
We want to build cloud scale products
Yeah.
with a good platform that can scale well
Yeah.
and meet
Yeah.
the needs. And be
Exactly.
simple also.
Yeah. Because we did the same journey with Azure AD B2C. Maybe it's not part of that podcast, but that's another story where we also use as a framework, AD B2C as a framework, but built experience, customer experience around ourselves. So mm.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Maqsood. It's been fascinating talking to you. And yeah, I definitely want to take you up on doing another episode. Maybe not a podcast, but doing like a visual walkthrough of, all the things you've done.
Yeah, sure. Most
I,
welcome.
I feel you are like one of the more mature folks that I've come across in, setting up IAM and being cloud native. I mean, you had the advantage because you didn't have a lot of
Yeah.
Windows
Windows
backgrounds.
backgrounds,
It
yeah.
was all Linux. It
Yeah.
was all Linux, and you went from there into
Yeah.
the cloud.
Yeah,
So
exactly. We saw it a positive, yeah.
yeah, that's also true. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ian. Yes.